At 1:17 a.m., the Aurora stopped moving. Not slowed, not thinning, stopped like a river pinned to the sky with invisible tacks. Everyone who's worked a polar winter knows the Aurora's grammar. Curtains, swirls, folds, the slow revision of sentences written in green. That night, the sentence froze mid-verb. Out on the ice, the wind forgot to translate itself into sound. Inside the lab, the frost began climbing the windows from the inside, a lace pattern rising like a warning, written by cold fingers. Our radios died. The room didn't go quiet. The handsets gave a carrier hiss, choked once, then learned to breathe. 2 counts in, 3 out, measured like a nurse coaching lungs. I tapped the base with a knuckle, expecting loose shielding or a sulking cable. The breath kept time. Above us, a silent craft hung over the roof, no rotor wash, no hum, just light pressing down in a way I have never seen light consider. The snow didn't blow. The whip antenna outside didn't twitch. The generator sagged for hertz on the panel and then climbed back in steps. Not a ramp plateau drop. Plateaus, if the frequency were walking down a staircase someone else owned. Don't go outside, our intercom said, in my own voice, half a beat late. I hadn't said anything yet. I'm 37, a field technician, instrumentation, radios, power. Before this job, I wore an USAF patch for long enough to learn to argue with electronics politely. At Barrow, the checklist is a religion. Magnetometers, all-sky cameras, photometer, data loggers, diesel generator, battery bank. We measure space weather and earthly stubbornness. We talk about KP indices, the way town people talk, gas prices. The week had written small foreshadowings in our margins. The radio Sandy uplink coughed a 7-second gap and healed itself. The Aurora camera saved a duplicated frame at 1 hour 17 minutes and 8 seconds 2 nights prior. We blamed dropped packets and rebooted the capture demon. The sled dogs at the maintenance yard had barked themselves hoarse at 1:17, then stopped together like a conductor had lowered a hand. In the lab, the bench compass did a half-turn and apologized, needle trembling toward north like it wanted to change its mind. Evan-20-9, geophysics grad student, Northern Lights romantic, shared the shift with me that night. We were halfway through swapping tapes on the sky camera when the green curtains outside turned to a painting. He said, "Is it stuck?" and laughed because the body needs jokes when math leaves. Then the frost began creeping up the inside of the windows, feathery and fast, pointing toward the corners like it was outlining exits. Evan raised his breath to see if he could make a patch clear. The frost ignored him and climbed anyway. The generator controller ticked. 59.9 gives 55.9 gives 55.9 gives 55.9, not a sag and recover steps like decisions interference. Evan said, "Interference doesn't make ice change its mind," I said, which is exactly the kind of sentence you say when your training has reached its shoreline. We both looked up because the light above us leaned not brighter, not dimmer, closer, like a hand resting on a shoulder without muscle or weight. The roof joists didn't creak. The snow outside didn't crack. Pressure found my inner ears anyway. The air like a slow elevator nobody ordered. The intercom clicked and borrowed my voice. "Do not go outside." Evan's hand was already on the parka zipper. You don't work here if you don't trust procedure. The anteroom is a religion. Open inner door, seal boots off, parka on, mask, outer door, check wind line, call it out. We did none of that in the right order because the intercom repeated my sentence with a new cadence. Do dash not dash go dash outside. The syllables wore the pauses of someone who admired punctuation more than lungs. Radio check ops, I said into the bass. The bass breathed at me and counted 7 seconds and then hung up. The magnetometer feed on monitor to ran out of vocabulary. The line went white saturated and then flat. The numbers died without ritual. The photometer pegged and then learned to be 0. The all-sky camera stopped inventing stars and wrote a single frame. Timestamp 1 hour 17 minutes and 8 seconds, and then 1 hour 17 minutes and 8 seconds again. Do not go outside, the intercom said me, but not me. Evan, who believed in weather and goodwill more than I ever had, opened the inner door and stood in the anteroom like a sin. His eyelashes salted in the cold. He glanced back. We held each other's eyes 3 seconds longer than protocol permits. Don't, I said. I'll be careful, he said, which is the adult version of I promise. He cracked the outer door, and the light from above pressed the seam of it gold. No wind, no drift, minus 22 degrees Celsius. That somehow didn't blow. It arrived. He stepped onto the snow. His boots printed perfect ovals. He took 20 steps toward where the light felt lowest. The footprints continued in a straight line and then stopped, clean, like a sentence with no period, just absence. No scuff, no slide, no fall. His lantern fell, upright. The beam pointed at the horizon and went dark without fizz or smoke or snow collecting on the lens. I have that shape burned into me, a standing object in a world that refuses to stand for you. The craft I don't have another noun and dislike that I need one gave a tilt. Not a list, not a wobble. A precise degree as if listening for a thing inside the building. I thought his name. The tilt deepened by a fraction. The generator dropped another step and then climbed back to where regulations feel at home. Do not go outside. The intercom said the same sentence wearing a new rhythm, like it had learned us and now wanted to teach back. I closed the inner door because what I could do was small and I wanted to do all of it. Inside, the frost had traced frames around the lab windows, rectangles inside rectangles, like a child learning to draw houses from memory. You could write your name with a finger, and the letters would fill with white as if the window had decided against contact. The bench thermometer in the corner walked itself down in steps, minus 19 degrees Celsius, 16 degrees Celsius, 16 degrees Celsius, 13 degrees Celsius H, landing a calm plateau. The humidity reading chose numbers that do not belong to sealed rooms. The intercom began listing nouns in my voice. Door, bench, cable, magnetometer Evan, between each word, the breath, into out 3. The cadence was careful, like a technician trying not to spill mercury. Stop, I said, to no one and to everything. Stop, the intercom repeated, half a beat, admiring my attempt. I slid into the chair at the console and did what I had left. I wrote, 117 duplicated, mag saturated gives flat, photometer pegged gives 0, generator steps, frost internal gives rising, intercom gives breathing, echo. The act of documentation is a leash you throw at beasts. Sometimes they allow the rope. Mostly it makes your hands busy while the world makes choices on your behalf. I reached for the VHF and took it off the hook because ritual helps. The handset whispered, breathing in my ear, measured, gentle, wrong, and then a single metallic tap like a ring against a stair rail. I looked at my hand, no ring. On the south camera, the Aurora held its paper-still arrogance, a wide green band with a fold that was mid-fall when someone paused it. On the west camera, noise like black velvet on the all-sky, one frame repeating with the same timestamp, like a second afraid of becoming a third. The rooftop anemometer spun once, then chose 0. The barograph drew a flat line like we were underwater in a polite ocean. The light above us leaned again. I felt it not on my skin but in the shape of my attention, like a tuner leaning toward a note a violin had whispered once. The intercom borrowed my voice and tried a sentence with kindness in it. Please do not go outside. I said nothing because I finally understood the rule. Language pays rent. Every word was a coin this room would spend. The frost stopped climbing. It held. I exhaled as if that had been my doing. The dogs at the yard broke the truce first. Far off, muffled by distance and by the snow, one barked and then another, then stopped, not staggered, not fading, stopped, like air had been folded back into a drawer. The light above us thinned at the edges, a lens pulled from a camera. The Aurora, still a painting, brightened, not like a memory being cleaned. The intercom tried one more imitation. In my voice, we apologize for the inconvenience. The joke landed in my chest like a nail. I made a noise that was not a laugh and not a prayer. Then the room began the slow, bureaucratic process of becoming normal. The generator found its 60 hertz and stares back up, each step waiting a moment, as if asking permission. The magnetometer drew numbers, a gentimate, ashamed. The photometer remembered levels. The anemometer slurred into a 1, then a 3. The all-sky gave me 1 hour, 17 minutes and 9 seconds, as if it had just guarded a second like a dragon. The light above us shrank, not down, not up, away. The way certainty shrinks when you point to it. It left no sound and less apology. No wind swept after it. The Aurora took a first breath and then a second, slow to trust itself, then fell back into grammar. Curtains flowing, folds arguing, the sky writing itself the way it prefers. I stood up too fast and had to sit down again. The intercom watched me with silence that felt attentive. We waited 1 minute like people at a bedside. Then I opened the inner door. The frost on the pane didn't grow and didn't melt. It remained. I stepped into the anteroom. The cold had its ordinary teeth back. I cracked the outer door and let a hand go outside. The light did not press it. Wind negotiated my knuckles like an old friend with bad news. Evan's footprints 20 ended where I had watched them end. The last oval was as perfect as the first. The lantern stood like a well-taught student. I picked it up. It had battery. It had filament. It had no will to glow. I put it down and swore because engineers swear when theology starts charging rent. I left the outer door closed and the inner door open and asked the station to choose me or the weather. It did not answer, which is the kindest answer I've ever received. We filed the report you rehearing now without the coordinates that would invite people who like maps more than they like families. The search was a ritual taught to us by better decades. Grid, flags, line abreast, flare radio. The radio worked. The grid had the footprints and their end. The flags learned nothing. The line abreast found hard snow pretending to be story. The flare fizzed like a memory that had paid its electric bill. We had Evan's name. We had no Evan. The data logger kept our shame in order. Temperature steps inside the lab like the heater was obeying orders from a stranger. The generator frequency stares down and back up, precise as a metronome. The magnetometer white out, then flatline, then numbers with a flinch. The all-sky with 1 hour 17 minutes and 8 seconds duplicated. The bench compass unturned. The VHF cassette with 27 seconds of breathing and 1 metal tap I can identify blindfolded as the handrail ring near the intercom. We assigned each artifact a box in the log. A box does for grief what a boat does for water, keeps it in a shape. For weeks, at 1:17, the yard phone, the ugly one mounted to the pole, its line for 7 seconds, and then died without ringing. The dogs refused the path Evan had walked. They arced around it, broke harness etiquette, and looked ashamed for things nature doesn't charge them for. On clear nights, 1 slice of the station windbreak wouldn't hold frost, but it would stand there clean, like even ice understood that line had become a noun. Sometimes the intercom cleared its throat, and I turned toward it, like a boy getting called to the front of a class. It said nothing. I apologized anyway. The Aurora misbehaved once more. That month paused for a heartbeat, then continued. The magnetometer didn't saturate that time. It drew a little wave that looked like a memory of white. I put my hand on the console and promised to stay through winter. When people ask for my noun UFO, craft, phenomena, give them verbs. Stopped, pressed, breathed, tilted, ended, especially ended, footprints ended, a breath ended, the light ended. Our certainty ended and learned to walk around in different shoes. If you've seen the Aurora stop, if your radios have learned to breathe, if your clock wrote 1:17 twice, if a light above you has tilted like it was listening, if footprints you loved ended in clean snow, and the lantern stood up on its own, leave me one word so. I know the ice keeps more than my story. Outside, no coordinates, no routes, no names that would bring strangers to doors that never wanted to be famous. Just outside. I read them at 1:17 with my palm on the frost and my ears empty of sound. The last thing the intercom ever said in my voice had the shape of love and the grammar of command. Do not go outside. I didn't. I am still trying to figure out if that sentence saved me or kept me from who I would have followed. The Aurora is moving tonight. I watch it rewrite its green promises. I listen for a breath I hope not to hear. I set a pencil on the console because pencils work when batteries turn their faces away. The pencil rolls a 1/4 inch and stops like the table has chosen a new hill. I finish the log entry with the only words that make a room behave: observed, recorded, returned, and I leave the rest to the sky.